is for the purpose of other sectors and actors. Now I'd like to elaborate. The government of India has allocated 13,479 crores for the Indian Space Research Organization, of which 5,704 crores of revenue have been estimated for the Department of Space. Yet, will this hefty investment reciprocate into scientific output? India's Mars orbiter mission has been lauded for its cost effectiveness. However, its contribution to scientific research has been downplayed massively. Taking NASA's Mars atmosphere and volatile evolution orbiter. Even though it costs 7 times as much as that of the MOM, it has produced a repository of at least 500 papers and many seminal scientific results about the Martian atmosphere, compared to ISRO's 27 papers. While half of these 27 papers are simply engineering descriptions and not scientific results. While one of the key mission objectives of the ISRO is to aim towards research and development in space science and planetary exploration. Common deficiencies in developing instruments on ISRO's part is, for example, the methane sensor for Mars. It was found to have a design flaw, while NASA's MAVEN was expected to deliver, and which it did with its infrared sensors. The member would like to present for them an example of two cars, one an old and dilapidated one, while the other a brand new. Both perform the same task, yet one would rather choose a new car compared to the old one. Now, this brings us to assurance that it will last longer and is better, displaying the fact that one would rather choose to invest more to ensure a better output. Thus, in this analogy, the ISRO missions are the old car, while NASA is a new one. One will rather to choose to invest in a project that provides a more substantial output rather than a program whose main objective is publicity and cost feasibility. Thus, there is indeed no doubt that the funding issued for such projects are better suited to other sectors in the Indian economy, rather than investing in a less output producing one, such as the Mangalyaan mission. The delegate also would like, the member would also like to specify that he's not stating that the money of the taxpayers should rather be involved in commercialization of such technologies, rather than the avenue of space exploration.
Okay, would that be all?
Yes, I would like to
Yeah.
appoint my time to points of information.
Yeah. If there's any points of information which the opponent team would like to raise? Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
How do you expect India to overcome all of its flaws when the budgetary allocation of the ISRO is not even 10% compared to the budgetary allocation of NASA?
So exactly, that is my point. Why is why is most of the taxpayers' money being focused on the space exploration? Shouldn't we rather focus on the privatization, such that many external factors are entering into India, such that ISRO is allowing them to launch their satellites into outer space, right? Why don't we use that and rather result in the commercialization of technologies that are being developed through the Mars orbiter mission? Why don't we use that for the benefit of the nation? Why are we wasting our money, right? If such companies such as NASA does the same job better, why invest such money?
Okay. Is there any other point of information? Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll stop. We'll end this speech. Points have been noted. Is there a point of order or a point of personal privilege that the opponent team would like to raise? No? Okay, fine. With that, we move on to the next presenter. The member of the option party. The floor is all yours. You can start whenever you're ready.
Imagine our country. Imagine India without more iron men like Abdul Kalam, without them being able to shine. Is this the type of world, is this the type of country that side proposition would like to live in? This is what we on side opposition are against. Now, first of all, what has side proposition come out about? Side proposition seems to have completely forgot what ISRO actually does, and I've only focused on one aspect, which is defense. Let me tell you what ISRO actually does. It develops and delivers specific satellite products to the nation, and these help in national broadcast, communication, weather forecast, disaster management, geographical tools, and telemedicine. Now, what has side proposition come out about? Side proposition has come out about they said investing in space research leads to useless exploration. I fail to believe how side proposition actually believes that such research is actually useless. Without the let's look at an analogy. Without the urge to see what is out there in space, all the continents would still be populated by indigenous races. For example, North Americans would all be Native Americans, Africans would all be black, and the Australians would only have aboriginals and kangaroos. Let's take this argument to its extremes. Suppose no one had ever wondered, even thought, if there were other villages somewhere in the world, everyone will live in their own shell of ignorance and stay in their own countries. And even the printing press in Germany would stay there unless some other nation happened to stumble upon it in the same process. This is why we on side of opposition believe that space exploration is necessary to find out what lies beyond. So now I'm moving on to my constructives. I'll be talking about why ISRO is good at what it does and why it is much more successful than any other government than a majority of government organizations. So firstly, some of the let's talk about the revenue generated by the ISRO.
So point of information.
I'll take you in a bit, sir. So by launching foreign satellites, ISRO has generated about 10 to 20% of its total income, and more than 75% comes from from the satellite communication businesses, amounting to around 5,600 crores over a period of 3 years. Even though it does not make much profit, even though side proposition came out and said it costs about 13,000 crores has been invested in the budget, only 5,700 crores has been generated as profit. They failed to believe, they failed to see that ISRO was not made to generate profit. It was made to help the other sectors, to help the sectors of medicine, help the sectors of agriculture. All of these sectors are benefited by investing in the ISRO. Your question, sir.
Sir, yeah. In reference to that, you say that ISRO shouldn't generate any profit. However, when it's considered as a sector of the Indian economy, right? The taxpayers' money is being directly involved in this particular thing for the benefit of the nation. Am I not? Am I wrong? Not at all. So now, on the basis of this, my question is that in NASA, every dollar spent in NASA gives out a profit of $10. Why not in India? India is already a developing nation. It's considered the world's largest democracy. Don't we have the capability of generating a collective revenue stream from the ISRO?
Thank you for your question. So what I understand from that is you say that organizations such as the NASA, they're able to generate much more profit. They're also developing nations as compared to India. We should be on the same level is what you believe. So let's think of it in a word. Let's think of a case where the ISRO has been disbanded. It is not there anymore. So how would India launch satellites? How would they launch probes into the space? They would need the help of other organizations such as, or you could take NASA or SpaceX. Now, let's look at this small statistic. So the cost of launching in India, the cost of launching from the ISRO is much cheaper than any other institution. Here, the average cost is only 3 million US dollars, where an organization such as SpaceX, it amounts to around 60 million US dollars. This is a statistic from the years 2013 to 15. So countries like the US are only able to generate such high levels of income by charging exorbitantly high prices to countries that do not have their own native space research organizations. Is this the type of thing that side proposition wants to promote? The monopoly of an entire industry by a single country or a single organization. This is what side proposition is trying to tell us. Now, let's look at some other organizations in our country, India. So the BSNL it's a government telecommunication company. It made huge losses of about 15,000 crores in the years 2018. So if side proposition can justify keeping businesses or organizations such as the BSNL afloat, we see no reason why the ISRO, which is detrimental to development in the fields of space research, should be taken down. How do they even believe that ISRO should be taken down when organizations such as BSNL, which have generated losses about 15,000 crores, are left afloat? Your question, sir?
So now, on the basis of this, it must be noted that the ISRO stands for the Indian Space Research Organization. Both members of the opposition have clearly stated about BSNL, telecommunications, satellites, etc. Yet the main objective of ISRO is towards space exploration. It's literally said on their website, is to develop space technology and its application to various needs. Right now, on the basis of this, I've clearly indicated in my speech that the overall scientific research, which is one of its key factors, it isn't providing that. So any response to that particular thing?
What is your actual question, sir?
So the entire opposition is clearly stating referring to telecommunication satellites. You're not referring to the main fundamental of the ISRO, that is space. You're not referring to that at all.
So you're saying the so side opposition has come out about satellites, and you say they aren't actually related to space. I don't see how that's valid. Satellites are released into space. They help. They help to help other sectors such as agriculture, disaster management, medicine. I don't see. It's not only based on going to different planets and researching about those. ISRO also includes satellites that help to bring back profits to different sectors in our country, that help to develop our nation. And so, with this, I would like to conclude my speech by saying this side for opposition believes that the ISRO is not a waste of investment from the government, and it should be kept afloat. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. You have 30 seconds to answer a question. Would you like to take up a question, participant?
Oh,
The
thank you.
point of order. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah. The point of order. Okay, fine. So
Yeah.
just 1 second, participant.
Yeah.
So,
The proposition. Sorry, sir.
yeah. Give me a second, and then I'll let you ask the question. Yeah. Okay. So with that, points have been noted. But opponent team, you can now raise the point of order. The speech is ended.
Yeah. It has to be clearly explicitly noted that the opposition is clearly misinterpreting what the proposition is clearly saying. We are saying that the resources that are developed by the ISRO for in terms of space exploration are the waste of government resources. We do believe that the ISRO must focus on commercialization of the technologies that have been developed by them, as they were considered the most advanced and most economically feasible throughout the entire world. We just mean to say that it's on the basis of its basic fundamentals, and on its name, the Indian Space Research Organization. It's rather investment into space exploration and a waste of money.
Participant, I just have a doubt before we go ahead to judgment of the adjudicator. Please note that a point of order needs to be in the terms of factual inaccuracy or a factual fault, and say in some statement that the opponent speaker has made, or needs to be outside the purview of the topic. So in such a situation, can you please reframe your statement to such? See? Because
Yeah.
what you're stating is something that, if I'm right, it's something that they should have mentioned, but you mentioned.
So yeah, what I'm trying to say is that I would like to raise a point of order on what the opposition considers the proposition stance to be. I'm trying to say that the proposition believes that in certain parts of space exploration that the ISRO is a waste of the government's resources. In other terms, it is not. I do believe that answers it.
Okay, so yeah, that's fine. Like, we took that point, but the thing is, you participant, please know that the judge won't be taking it as a point of order first, because this is more of a statement which you're making rather than a factual inaccuracy, and that doesn't come under the purview of a point of order. So with that notion, you can bring it up as a rebuttal statement, if I would say, but not as a point of order. A point of order is only explicitly used when they made a factual inaccuracy in their statement, or they've gone outside the purview of the topic. Okay?
Okay, that's all. Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Rishabh.
You're welcome. Okay, with that, we end the first part of the debate. We move on to the next part of the debate, which is the rebuttal round. Just a few instructions before we go to the rebuttal round. Participants, please note that each presenter has 4 minutes, starting with the leader of the opposition party and then ending with the prime minister. Please note that a point of information cannot be raised during a rebuttal round. Only a point of order or point of personal privilege can be raised after the presenter is done presenting. Also, please note that no new facts can be brought into light during a rebuttal round. All the facts that exist inside the purview of the debate that henceforth commenced is the only facts that can be put forward for. So with that, we can move on to the next presenter, the leader of the opposition party. The floor is all yours. You can start whenever you're ready.
A very good morning to everyone present here. I would like to, in my rebuttal speech, lay clear where the proposition have been missing our areas of coverage and have conveniently chosen to ignore what we're trying to say. So, firstly, about the various flaws they've stated in the launch of the Martian satellite launched by India, I would like to say that only 0.03% of the Indian budget was used for launching the Mangalyaan mission, and it was a successful mission. And because of this, it brought in more investment from foreign investors and has actually, and many other countries have started to invest in India to launch their satellites, which have also increased the profits. And of course, you cannot expect a poorly funded organization to give more exponential benefits and coverage than an organization that has almost half the funding of the Indian budget. So moving on, um, the main arguments of side proposition was profit motive and how it doesn't contribute, and how Indian satellites contribute only to defense. Firstly, profit motive is not the motive of any organization that is run by the government. If you take profit motive, then take up the electricity board. They are giving electricity, they're providing electricity to us at a subsidized rate. Then if you look at profit motive, then if they aim for profit motive, then none of us would be able to run the fan or the computer or anything. So profit motive is clearly not the motive of any government organization, so which has been clearly misunderstood by side proposition. Moving on, um, the side proposition has come up and said that the taxpayers' money are being wasted in spending on ISRO missions. But what we feel is that the taxpayers' money are being used very well. In fact, if you consider the PM CARES fund, which has been launched due to the impact of COVID, there has been no proper usage of it. There has been no transparency in the usage of those funds, and it has not been clearly applied of where it is being used. Compared to that, ISRO has done a pretty good job in using it in the best possible way by providing them with telecommunication facilities and also launching satellites into orbit. Moreover, the side proposition raised the question saying that launching satellites of other sectors is not a primary job of ISRO. But what we would like to state from side opposition is that if ISRO as an organization didn't exist, then all these sectors that base their entire geographical data and all their telecommunication facilities based on satellites, they wouldn't be able to launch their own satellites. And even if they were able to launch it, it would be at a really high cost and from another country, which clearly goes against the motive of Make in India. Also, apart from this, I would also like to state how I just like to bring about a comparison between the first and the second speeches of the side proposition. In the first speech, the side proposition clearly mentioned that India is a developing country and it has to invest in its resources on benefiting the people. Whereas in the second speech, the side of side proposition, they try to bring about a parallel between a new car and an old car. Well, if you are a poor developing country, well, not poor country, but a developing country that has to invest in its resources and other things, then obviously you would not be able to, you'd not try to bring about new technology or go to buy a new car, in the words of side proposition. You would be trying to sustain yourself with the amount of technology you have, and you try to use it in the best possible way. And that is what ISRO is doing. So clearly we have told you inside opposition where how ISRO has contributed so much to the benefit of our country, and how it has helped save lives, and how it has helped providing more employment opportunity by analysis of various areas, and how water, power, and agriculture, which has to be developed, is being indirectly developed by ISRO by identifying new reservoir facilities, by geographical mapping of the areas.
Yeah.
1 minute, sir. Last line.
Okay.
So I from side opposition feel that we have clearly answered each and every question that has been put forth by side proposition, which they have not done satisfactorily for the questions asked from side opposition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Points have been noted. Would the opponent team like to raise a point of order or a point of personal privilege? Okay. With that, we move on to the final speaker for today. Prime Minister, the floor is all yours. You can present whenever you're ready.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Waste of resources not only means wasting money or resources, but it also means that the amount that is invested and the outcome is not equal. Now, I completely disagree with the opposition. Looking at all the statistics, we can clearly derive that how India loses big bucks by just investing in ISRO, whereas the amount can be used in certain other aspects, providing basic facilities to the people who are in need. The proposition firmly believes that the space exploration concept of ISRO is a waste of government resources. Also, it is not a, if it is not a profit motive, then clearly the opposition means that it is a welfare motive, and the proposition believes that the citizens aren't getting any welfare out of the space explorations. Also, the opposition team is misinterpreting the meaning of ISRO and the aim of ISRO. It basically aims for a space exploration, not talking about telecommunication or geographical data. Now, if we talk about government organization, yes, government organization does look for a profit motive. But if one person is investing so much and in return they're giving null, then there is no point of investing, even if there is no welfare for its own citizens. Now, therefore, the proposition sides clearly believe that the resources, if invested in ISRO, it's obviously a waste of governmental resources because it isn't helping us in any fact that is related to our individual's life. If we talk about weather forecasting, one can go into the balcony and finally figure out what the weather is like, but getting saved from these things can't get saved if you're getting to know half an hour or 1 hour back that something is about to happen. What maximum could happen, even if you see earthquake as mostly predicted 1 minute before, what's the point of it? No point, right? That's where the proposition firmly stands, that ISRO, investing in ISRO is wasting the resources which can be used in very good manners, which isn't being used. Thank you. I rest my case.
Okay, thank you so much. Points have been noted. Is there a point of order or a point of personal privilege that the opponent team would like to raise? Okay, with that, participants, we come to the end of the, okay, hi. Sorry.
Point of order.
Okay, go ahead.
In the rebuttal speech, the Prime Minister had stated that most of the natural disasters can be predicted only moments before their occurrences, but this is so not true for cyclones and other major natural disasters, which can be predicted well before they occur, and mitigational measures could be taken.
Okay, Judge.
Leader of opposition, your observations have been clearly noted. So I believe the Prime Minister or the member of government can take further notice of it.
Okay. Okay, fine. So we've considered the point and case scenario, and points have been all noted. With that, finally, we come to the end of this debate. Thank you so much for participating in our Compass Online Parliamentary Debate. For me, it was a really interesting debate to say. I, for a student perspective, I was really amazed to see certain level of research and rebuttal and public speaking skills that was put forward. I'm pretty sure the judge has a lot of feedback and tips to, give. So over to you, Sudha.
Yes, thank you, Rishabh. I believe it was quite an engagement, and especially when it comes to now in terms of virtual platforms. It's the very first time I'm having an experience in virtual platform myself, engaging with the people, engaging with the school and the school level students. And of course, I'm taken quite by surprise by the debating skills and the research, the amount of research that might have might have gone into such a topic. And considering how much ISRO has been into news in the recent times and many factors that are involved in it, coming with such a topic and having a preposition and opposition to work upon, I think it was a great initiative, and it was by the organizers, and it was even a greater initiative taken by the debaters, all the folks from the government and the opposition. I believe they have done an incredible job. So I wish you all the best, and keep debating, and keep thinking about everything. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Judge. With that, we come to the conclusion of the debate. Yeah. So,
So, do you have any personal feedback for us?
Judge.
Personal feedback, I believe there is nothing as such, because it was quite personal feedback. I would rather say for the member of opposition, Mr. Niranjan, if I'm not wrong, right? Yeah, here you go. So I believe formal conduct is a necessity, and that should be taken note of. Formal conduct in terms of your appearance, whatever it is. So I think that must be taken care of. So you can take it in whatever debates you participated in future, be it virtual or physical. So that should be definitely taken note of. And apart from that, speakers. Every speaker were quite eloquent, and there was no amount of hesitation or anything as such, uh, which should have brought my attention. But altogether, it was quite good. Everyone was fairly doing really well in terms of speaking points of informations, and even in the rebuttal round, both the prime minister and the leader of opposition did really well. So I believe it was quite a fantastic debate, and you guys are already very experienced. So that's it.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Judge.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add one other suggestion to the judge. Uh,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, always note, just a basic suggestion, for the future rounds or future debates of yourself, always prepare a speech handy. Just when you know that you're going to be speaking for 6 minutes, know that you're the only person who's given 6 minutes to speak, and you need to prepare a script enough for 6 minutes, not much lesser than 6 minutes or much above than 6 minutes, like after 6 minutes. So prepare a speech like around 5 minutes 30 seconds. Prepare it really well in your own way. Don't use a script when you're presenting it. I'm pretty sure none of you use the script. You used this just for reference. I could see that in a way that you guys are being very professional in that manner. But prepare a script that is for 5 minutes 30 seconds. Use a lot of emphasis when you're putting across points, and enjoy the speech when you're going through. That way you'll create a much better impact when you're putting across points, facts, and statements and so forth. So just a future notice. I'm pretty sure that won't be taken into consideration now, from since I'm just a moderator. But just a general advice, guys, it helps every single time. Be it a debate, be it an MUN, be it a normal public speaking situation, it helps every single time. Okay. So with that, I rest my case as well. All the best, students. We'll keep you notified as to who gets into the next round. But apart from that, I hope that you guys have all enjoyed the experience of taking part in a parliamentary debate. I wish you all the best for the future. Take care, stay safe, and have a good weekend. Thank you, participants.
Thank you all. It was great debating with you. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can we approach Siddhant sir in case of any personal feedback, if his number
Yeah,
would be given?
we'll provide you at the end of the round, and you can,
Okay.
if he's okay, you can always reach out to him.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful debate and an experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, participants, you can leave the meeting room now.
That this House condemns the censorship of content on OTT platforms like Netflix. Now, what essentially is censorship? That was an idea was started in early Greek city states back at the times of Plato and Aristotle. Is that censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information on the basis that the material is obscene, objectionable, harmful, sensitive, or even inconvenient. It can be employed by any person or authority in power. It can be the government or even a public or even a private authority. Now, OTT platforms are uh, are streaming media services available to people via the internet, which I can access through the Play Store or the App Store in my device and watch any content that I want. They work on a subscription on demand platform. So I, as an individual, am allowed to watch or view any content that I want. So first of all, as bringing on to the topic of censorship, I am not entitled to watch any content that the media service is posting on me, and I am fully free to watch any content that I want. Now, if censorship is put up on these platforms, then I feel, and mostly our generation will feel that there's a restriction of freedom of speech and expression, as several ideas and opinions are being curtailed. If, for example, recently with the show Patal Lok, there was a lot of controversy that it is showing some issues of our society which are not like to be seen by people. But it is the truth and it needs to be shown, and that's the artistic view of the art of the filmmaker, and he wants to showcase it to people. How can you say that it's what you say not in the proper way? For example, sometime back when the CA NRC debate was going on, the John Oliver show talked about Prime Minister Narendra Modi and how the CA and criticized it basically, and then there was a lot of issue and Hotstar finally took it down. Now, this is the government trying to curtail the criticizing features upon it, and like it's not allowing room for discussion and debate. Now, another thing that we need to understand is that artists or filmmakers, directors who uh, are on these OTT platforms actually get a pedestal or a platform to showcase their talent, to showcase their work, which they often cannot get through the mainstream cinematic views, because first of all that involves a lot of money and there's a lot of procedure that goes through it. Then these the public today is looking for this content that these artistic filmmakers is bringing. These content deals with socio-political issues. It provides us with regional varieties. It gives us a lot of viewpoints on different aspects of our country, of our world, and they actually are very informative and teach us a lot as a person. They are gripping storylines with bold narratives and plots which are fearless of political involvement and political parties, and the viewers that are enjoying this content want more of it and want to discuss and deliberate upon it. They in fact see it in their own society and get reflective and might actually be someone who works on it today. It is even impacted the youth today who is mainly available, who mainly sees these shows on OTT platforms. Now what we need to see is that the viewership on these OTT platforms is increasing annually by 21.8%, and that people are actually enjoying the content that is being put up on it. So we actually can't say that this content needs to be censored or needs to be shown away from the people, because it's informative, it's reflective, and it's actually teaching people the issues that our society currently has. Now, as talking about censorship, we already know that the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and the BCCC has a lot of rules in place for the filming industry and the TV industry, as we know. But I would like to ask, even if films are censored at one point, for example, Padmavat and films like Padmavat, PK, My Name is Khan, these films went through a lot of screening and discussion. And then also, people had a lot of issues with them, and controversy again arose. Even if you had to censor some content on OTT platforms, where is the reason that it won't be having that controversy? Also, if you actually start censoring content, then there is a lot of logical fallacy that start arising. The main one being piracy. There is Everything is available on the internet these days, and I'm pretty sure that people can go and access the content some way or another which they want to see, and the government is trying to hide. These OTT platforms have given people convenience because they are affordable. They are available in shows and movies are available in regional dialects, regional languages. They give free trial periods to people. They enjoy the content that they are trying to watch, and uh, mainly young people are being affected by this because they are being now aware of the fact that what is going on in their communities and what is going on as in the social political avenue. Censorship is being used by a state to curtail the thoughts, the ideas of people in this scenario if OTT platforms are to be censored. For example, we saw how there was a lot of issues surrounding the episode that Hassan Minaj with his Patriot Act on Netflix did during the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. But Netflix realized the fact that it is actually just informative and he's a stand up comedian, not trying to objectify any single class or saying. He just was speaking his opinion, and they realized, and that's why they didn't do the censorship. Now, there's self censorship as well, and I'm pretty sure that all the OTT platforms that are currently in our country, including Netflix, has self regulatory laws, and they give maturity jurisdiction of ages like 7+ or 18+, and what content is good for what class. And with that, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Points have been noted. Would the opponent team like to raise a point of order or a point of personal privilege? Okay. With that, we move on to the next speaker, the leader of the opposition party. The floor is all yours. You can start whenever you're ready.
March 15th, 2019. The horrible Christchurch mass killings took place on that day. The shooter live streamed the first 17 minutes of his attack on Facebook Live. Within the next 24 hours, over 1.2 million copies were made in block. This attack was linked to the increase in white supremacy and alt-right extremism globally. It's broadcast on Facebook Live, where so many people could see it, would have also had an impact on this increase. This shows the need for certification. We define sensible and reasonable censorship as certification. Opposition is not for the opposition does not stand for complete censorship. It is for sensible and regulated certification, not censorship but certification. What is the difference? While the word censorship makes it look like it is very regulated, strict content that only supports the political views of the government, it isn't so. We're talking about certification. It acts as a mechanism which determines which content is safe for viewing by the majority of the public and isn't offensive to many communities. Once again, safe for viewing. What does it exactly refer to? Content that does not perpetrate violence or feelings of hatred, or content that doesn't have mature scenes such as nudity or pornography. Now, this is the world that the opposition wants and the world that we stand for. Content needs to be reasonably regulated, and OTT platforms reach to a wide audience. When a person, say, is spreading strong feelings of unreasonable hatred about a particular community, and it does have an impact on all young viewers and general viewers, this is wrong as there's misinformation being spread. Now, an argument saying censoring restricts freedom of speech and it is a fundamental right and it isn't morally justified. False because there is Article 19 which sets down reasonable restrictions on freedom of speech, and this is the basis of the Central Board of Film Certification. Now, if a person wants to share his or her views about a particular community and they may seem offensive, there are other platforms where he or she can do so. OTT platforms, let's just take Netflix for example, has over 167 million subscribers. By other platforms, he or she can stream it on Facebook, for example, to a particular group of people who willingly want to view it, and it isn't available for public viewing. So you can't like just stumble upon an offensive TV show on Netflix. I mean, a young kid wouldn't be able to stumble upon an offensive TV show on Netflix. Not TV show on Netflix. Maybe you have to be part of a particular group on Facebook to view it. Now, let me put the type of certification we're talking about into perspective. The FTV channel was advised to broadcast or air their TV show after 11 p.m. to ensure that younger audiences do not get exposed to the content. We are simply wanting to certify some shows or movies with offensive content and properly ensure that it is followed. Now, moving on to my constructives. Reasonable censorship is necessary. Why is it necessary? As I pointed out earlier in my speech with the example of the Christchurch massacre mosque killings, Christchurch mosque killings being live streamed, it was let out to unrestrained to the public. This is morally wrong as OTT platforms have extremely large viewership, meaning they influence quite a large amount of people. It is a moral obligation for these platforms to ensure that the content released on them isn't offensive or hurting to any community in any way. A prop cannot come over and say, hey, where else can these filmmakers express their thoughts though they are offensive? There are other platforms, and we clearly gave examples of them too. And now we're not restricting freedom of speech like how it is done in China, for example, the Tiananmen massacre. We're not restricting people's right to protest in any way. We're simply encouraging other forms of peaceful protest, such as NFL players kneeling down in the Black Lives Matter movement. One more example for the need for censorship is that during the 26/11 attacks, news broadcasters were giving live coverage and terrorists were literally using that to strategically plan their attacks. These are just instances where censorship was necessary. We can compare the model that we're proposing to food safety regulations, for example. It defines what is safe to consume and what isn't safe to consume. Likewise, like how food regulations are necessary, reasonable certification is necessary. OTT platforms can actually also form their own certification board, like the CBFC, to determine what type of content to be allowed is allowed to be broadcasted on their platform, and they can hold referendums with a diverse group of people, like a small sample group, and see whether any of them are getting offended by the content, and then release it out to the major public. Now, some of these guidelines, such as guidelines, can be one model that we're proposing is a type of we're proposing a board where these OTT platforms can communicate with each other and have a specific standard set of guidelines about what type of content can be regulated. So criminal acts shouldn't be glorified, or scenes encouraging alcohol consumption or drug addiction or smoking should be minimal, and then there should be very less vulgarity, obscenity, or scenes degrading women, including sexual violence. So these can form the guidelines. And here, when the word "no" is used, it refers to the minimum, meaning there are very less scenes as much as possible. Also here the amount of scenes with the above said context, as the amount of scenes having the above said context increases, the age rating can also be increased accordingly. There can be stronger parental controls with lesser loopholes through which children can still view them, which the member of the opposition will be talking about. And secondly, the prime minister also said that people can easily pirate it. Now firstly, not everyone will want to pirate it, and only people who badly want to watch the TV show will pirate it, which means not it won't be available to the general public. With this, I would like to end my speech. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Points have been noted. Would the opponent team like to raise a point of order or a point of personal privilege?
Thank you.
With that, we move on to the next speaker. Member of Government, floor is all yours. You can start whenever you're ready.
Can I start?
Yeah.
The proposition truly recognizes all the potential drawbacks that the OTT platforms possess. But banning or censoring any form of content is not the answer. Now, the first thing that I would like to rebut. In the speech, the opposition leader stated how a board should be formed, right? Now, with the formation of a board itself, would lead to one, corruption, would lead to red tapeism, and three, it would lead to nepotism. These were already the problems that were being solved by the OTT platforms. So directors who could not enter the mainstream cinema were entering through these platforms. And now, by suggesting that these OTT platforms should be controlled by a body, that indirectly refers to, that indirectly leads to nepotism, favoritism, leads to a potential for personal bias, right? The next thing we need to understand is now, time and again, it was talked about how in a content is viewed, right? And what I would like to highlight, as the member of the proposition, we would like to highlight the demand. The demand is not what is important. The demand is what is important, and it is not the supply. What we mean by this is that porn, for example, in India was banned, but despite the banning of porn, children and adults continue to watch it using alternate methods. Those alternate methods could be using Tor, could be using VPN, and other alternate servers to view that. Now we talk about how this can lead to bad content, right? But according to a survey and according to a research by the Times of India and the Economic Times, we find how 78% of all Indian teenagers between the age of 14 to 18 who have access to internet and a device have viewed porn at least twice or more. That in itself is a fact that would weaken the argument of the opposition. Now, of OTT platforms would lead to other. The first, sorry, uh,
Yeah.
there's disturbance.
Yeah. I'll pause the timer. You can tell me when you're organized again.
So, sorry, can I? I got a little confused. Sorry about that because there was some music. I can still hear it. Where is it coming from?
I'm not so sure. You're the only person who's. I think it's in your background.
That is possible because there's nothing in my background. Just a second. I'm not sure what's happening. Um, I'm really sorry. Can I start?
Yeah, you can continue with the same.
Yeah. So what the proposition is stating is that the demand won't go. So now to further strengthen the argument, let us look at a research study by Stephen D. Levitt, an economist and a PhD from University of Chicago, who conducted a study which showed that if instead of arresting the drug dealers who provided the drugs, if the people who consume the drugs were punished, then the drug consumption would go down. The reason for that is really simple, that if one supplier goes, right, another supplier will replace him. But if the demand itself dies, then the need for a supplier will go off immediately, right? Now, so what we're trying to say is that if you remove content from one OTT platform, it doesn't mean that it won't come on the internet. People will still watch it. Now, as the Prime Minister of our country stated, that this can also be used as a propaganda machine by our governments, and I will explain how. So by censoring content and by hiding important facts, you are taking away the democratic rights of the citizens of knowing what exactly is happening in the country. Now, by doing this, we are placing a bias. We are placing a false image in the minds of the people, right? Also, another thing to understand is that by censoring content on OTT platforms, not only are we are destroying artistic vision, we might also this also might create apprehension in the people's mind who want to enter the industry and make films, and this would in turn affect the livelihood of actors, directors, and would also affect the cinematic experience. Now the point about porn. So rather than removing the content or censoring the content, it is the people who need to be educated about this, right? And content for different age groups should be made so that it is suitable, and it is not just educational content. That is, of course, everyone needs entertainment. Along with educational content, you need entertainment. Now, another thing that we would like to highlight is how the opposition talked about creation of negative feelings. And in a country like India, where the media houses spread negativity and hatred all day, isn't that isn't that the first step that the government should take? Not censoring the news itself, because that would of course be autocratic. Rather, censoring the value judgments that are added. News is a source of information and not a source of entertainment where you're adding spice to things or you're giving analysis to things. That is the first step that the Indian government should take, or any government in the world should take, and not curb the content, rather curb the elements that are being added. Now, another thing that understood is that the moment piracy is concerned, now that leads to black markets, right? It leads to black markets. It leads to black markets how? One, because piracy of CDs, that will lead to black market. Two, it will also lead to black market in the sense the net black market. This is a very big issue. What happens is many times people download apps or go to a site which might infringe upon their private information. And this information is furthermore sold on the black market, which is a way larger threat than actually viewing something that might just be appealing, right? So, what we are trying to suggest is that yes, OTT platforms have their potential drawbacks, but no, banning or censoring this content would not help, because people will still continue to watch this. Only the revenue of the directors, actors, and the media platforms, the OTT platforms themselves will be harmed. So what we're trying to suggest is that proper guidelines should be created so that no hatred is there, but forming proper guidelines should be there which need to be formed, but forming a committee or by forming maybe a private or a government committee will indirectly lead to corruption, and that is our main argument.
Thank you
Now,
so much. Participant, really sorry, your time is up. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Thank you. With that, points have been noted. Would the opponent team like to raise a point of order or a point of personal privilege? Okay. Fine. With that, we move on to the next speaker, member of the opposition party. You can start whenever you're ready. The floor is yours.
Just a minute. Just going to open my Word document. Okay, can I start, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I would like to begin my speech with a few rebuttals. So, the first one being the mention of going to black markets or potentially malicious websites that might steal your data or produce viruses into your device. Well, our exact point is, why would you rather not watch a movie with a few cuts, rather than go to rather than potentially risk the entire device getting infested with viruses? Why would the common man want to? Why would the common man want to be so obsessed with watching the entire movie that they would risk infesting their device? Considering that there are around 167 million subscribers for Netflix, why would all the 167 million subscribers be such avid movie fans? We can understand the very few, and just like the Prime Minister said, those very few can have a group with the director on any platform or go to these private film festivals where they can indulge in watching the entire movie without any
point of
active.
information.
Is it in the time or?
Yeah, it's 1 minute mark. Arya, just remember that you can't raise your hand before the 1 minute mark.
I'm really sorry. I didn't want to disturb the opposition. I'm sorry.
Participant, you can continue.
Okay, so yeah. So also the member of government mentioned having democratic principles of democracy are being infringed when you are taking away the freedom of speech. Also, not considering that the democratic principles are being infringed when you don't listen to certain communities that feel that they are they're having targeted hatreds too. So,
Yeah, would you like to answer the question? There's been a POI that's been raised.
yes, sure.
So the opposition just talked about how people, why would they want to infringe their space and privacy? Is the opposition aware of the fact that sites like F movies, sites like Popcorn Time, sites like torrents and VPNs have about twice the viewership that normal OTT platforms have? Is the opposition aware of that fact?
Can I answer the POI? Sure. Is
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I reply with half of them are sites that were mentioned in the POI are illegal, and people who use sites like those, including Tamil rockers, they have been detained and arrested. Piracy is completely illegal, and moreover, there are tons of fake links on the internet that can be also used to make the viewer think that they are actually installing legitimate illegal content while they might be containing viruses. And yes, virtual private networks do exist, but half of them are premium. And adding to that uh, adding to that once more and more people go onto virtual private networks, that would be more and more expensive. Why would you rather not just stick to having a few cut scenes in the movie rather than taking the time to find the right video, verify that you're
Yeah, there's been another point of question.
no,
Will you?
I would decline that.
You can. Yeah, you want to declare? Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, why would you want to do that when you just could watch a movie with a few cuts? Okay, moving on to another rebuttal. What we're saying with the example of the that the government should curb the spice or the drama that news channels add instead of the information, we're saying the same thing. Do not completely destroy the movie by itself. Just curb what the too much of an extra slash violent, gruesome scenes. That's it. We're not asking you to take down the entire movie by itself. Okay, moving on to my constructives. So on one hand, we have the providers of the content, right? And on the other, we have the consumers of the content. I decline the POI.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Usually, the government censors the movies and other digital entertainment and protects the vulnerable consumers, that is the youth and the younger parts of the younger population of the country, on all other platforms apart from OTT platforms. OTT platforms can only be controlled by the content providers. Problem is, they might not always know the culture and ethos of the other countries. While the US might recognize a movie as PG and family rated, a family of India might consider it to be 18 plus. It is impossible to derive a rating that will be equal universally. Second of all, the children of this generation have easy access to the internet and therefore can access the internet from almost any device. This means they have easy access to most OTT platforms. If not their house, their friends. A family of this generation can only restrict and observe their kids to a certain extent. And when a kid logs on to a site, the risks of their exposure to obscenities such as violence, sex, and immoral crimes is high. This leads to the children being traumatized by what they're seeing. And seeing such movies all the time normalizes really gory violence for them. Children are just not ready for a gruesome depiction of a hate crime murder. Instead of preparing them to be world leader, it normalizes violence and prepares them to be criminals. Third, uncensored content might propagate agendas with political, religious, and caste differences to the young, unformed minds who are susceptible to believe in what is fed into their mind. It is not alright for the youth to be directed towards hating certain groups or supporting certain groups with a biased perspective and half baked knowledge.
Guys,
So,
participant, would you like to take up a point of information? Would you like to continue?
I would like to take the point of information.
Okay.
Um, the question from the proposition is that how exactly has the opposition come to the conclusion that by watching violent content, children become murderers or rapists or whatever you said, violent? How is it? Where is the correlation and what is the source of study that suggests that watching certain content forces one to act in a certain way, and what is the margin of error in the same?
Okay. So, first thing being, we're not saying that just watching one movie where somebody stabs another person is going to make a person a serial killer. No, we're not saying that. We're not suggesting that either. We're saying that regular exposure to gory violence normalizes it. That is, it becomes more of a day to day thing rather than something to be terrorized by, which they should. We're not saying that they should be scared of everything, but seeing a person murder another person in a very violent way is not all right to be normal. Or what? So another POI?
Uh, no, you can continue with your statement, participant.
Okay. So all we're saying is that regular exposure to this will only make them feel that it is normal. And when somebody feels that it is normal, they try to justify their acts by saying, they try to justify their acts through what they're saying. So, yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I would like to end my speech.
okay, thank you so much, participant. Points have been noted. Uh, is there a point of order or a point of personal privilege that the opponent team would like to raise? Arya, I'm sorry you cannot raise a POI. It's gone beyond the 5-minute mark.
But in the end, they said that if time is left, they can yield it 2 points of information. So
Only if there's less than 5 minutes left. If it's gone beyond the 5-minute mark, then you cannot ask.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, guys. With that, we end the first half of the debate. Moving on to the rebuttal round. There's just a few facts, just a few instructions before we move on to the rebuttal round. Participants, please note that each presenter has 4 minutes for rebuttal round. We start with the opposition party leader, ending with the prime minister. Please note that a point of information cannot be raised during a rebuttal round. Only a point of order and a point of personal privilege can be raised after the presenter is done making their rebuttal statement. Also, another note, please note that no new facts can be brought to light. All the facts that existing under the purview of the debate hence commenced is the only facts that can be brought under purview during the rebuttal round. With that, I think without further ado, we'll move on to the rebuttal structure. The leader of the option party, the floor is all yours. You can start whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Can you give me like 30 seconds?
Go ahead.
Can I start now?
Yeah. Presenter, you can start.
Okay. So firstly, why do we even want to censor some of the content in these OTT platforms? One of the reasons for censoring is that small children do not just stumble upon it while they're browsing for some series to watch. They don't stumble upon a series like Sacred Games and they watch it, and then it's not just age appropriate. And secondly, we talked about reasonable censorship. They started object they thought that we were proposing a kind of censorship that exists in China, where you're not even allowed to speak out. We clearly defined what kind of censorship we're going to exercise. It is going to be sensible and reasonable censorship, and it is not going to be absolute censorship where a different filmmaker can not even speak out about about his artistic depiction of society. And also yeah, and also we also mentioned what type of censoring. We never said that we'll take down the entire movie or we'll ban the movie from theaters. We only said that we said that we'll try to blur out images or graphic scenes. And sometimes if it's too much, for example, if a 16 plus movie has too much violence, we'll simply just take out that 2 or 3 second clip. We never said that we would take down the entire movie from the platform and ban it from any other streaming services. And we also said that those who wanted to view the movie, for example, if someone wants to, there is a movie that is sort of offensive to certain sections of society, those who are interested can watch it on other platforms. By putting it on OTT platforms where more than 100 millions of people who view the uh, who are on who use OTT platforms, they can just stumble upon it where they actually don't really want to watch it. So those who are these content that is seen as offensive to a particular section of society can be viewed in a platform where people actually want to go and watch it, and it's not available for public view. And we also suggested the idea of stronger parental controls, where you where uh, we also suggested the idea of stronger parental control, since most of these OTT platforms are watched by the entire family together. And okay, sometimes they're also watched alone, but then sometimes they're also watched with the entire family. And these sensors ensure that a child, while watching something with their parents, doesn't look at something that that's not age appropriate for them. By having stronger parental controls, you also ensure that this child does not stumble upon an 18 plus TV show, like already stated before. The proposition failed to kept misunderstanding what type of censorship we were talking about, and kept uh, rebutting and kept based all their arguments on the fact that we were proposing a world where we were proposing a form of censorship where where filmmakers cannot even speak out. They misunderstood that, and then they based their entire arguments on that. So, but then we clearly stated time and again that we aren't talking about extremely strict autocratic censorship. We are only talking about sensible and reasonable um, censorship and certification. And we also gave a bunch of we also gave the idea of self-regulation in these OTT platforms, which ensure that where it is properly and reasonably censored, and it is not affected by the government policies in any way. With that, I would end my speech.
Okay, thank you so much. Points have been noted. The opponent team like to raise a point of order or a point of personal privilege. Okay, with that, we move on to the last speaker for the debate. Prime Minister, the floor is all yours. You can start whenever you're ready.
All right, I would like to start right now.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, what the opposition has clearly not understood is that what the proposition is trying to talk about. We talked about piracy, and in fact, the opposition itself helped us by pointing out that how piracy is illegal. And that's what exactly the member of government referred to. Member of government referred and said that people, if content is banned and censored, then people often go to these sites like F movies, torrent, which do piracy of movies and scenes which were banned, and now they will go to those sites which have a lot of drawbacks and can even harm the person's device and its personal information, and the people will go there and indulge in activities, illegal activities like piracy. We're again reiterating the fact. Now they talked about how kids, it's not kid safe, and a kid might stumble upon something which is not age appropriate. Opposition, does the opposition realize that all these apps have already signed self-regulation codes like I previously talked about, and have age classifications, content description, and parental control guidelines in combination with the grievance redressal system? These can be applied by the parent, and these are the responsibilities of the parent and not the OTT platform. We are saying that even if OTT platforms are providing content, they should only give it to a select few communities or stuff. If I am a viewer, then why will I pay for the content that as I previously said, it's subscribe on demand. So I'm paying for the content, and then I'm watching the content that I want to watch. Nobody is forcing me to watch the content. So that's again coming on the fact that this that if I'm a viewer and I'm watching it, and if it's blogged or something, then how will I be satisfied with my, isn't my rights being violated? Now again, you talked about sensible censorship and not an autocrat. We never discussed about an autocratic form of censorship where everything in the media or everything that is coming on the internet is being censored. We were also referring to sensible censorship, and in fact I would like to ask you that as I talked about the John Oliver show, which was criticizing the Prime Minister and his laws, I would like to ask you, how is that not appropriate? In fact, criticism is the best thing that a government can have. Criticism in a democracy is the true essence of democracy, as there need to be discussion and debate. Now, these things like criticism and discussion, flow of debate and ideas can't be curtailed, because usually filmmakers and artists want to showcase the socio-political issues in a society which the people are already craving. Can you please tell me how is this not sensible? Now again, coming on to the fact, again, the opposition said that its kids can be harmful even if they watch these content, and kids will become murderers or rapists, and they will have a prolonged effect of it. Again, the opposition did not provide us with any sort of proof that they had to give on the fact that it will help them. In fact, like I previously said, it, the young people are the majority of the viewers of the OTT platforms, and only 33% of the Gen Z, that's age 22 and under it, support censorship. They feel like there should be a free flow of ideas, and they want to watch it. Again, as we talked about, the first thing that needs to be, actually, if the Indian government wants to censor some content, we talked about news platforms which were clearly confused with OTT platforms. These news platforms, they often to make their TRPs, the television rating points, higher. They add some spice and fake news into the mix of the news that is already present there, and actually that is misinformation. And the opposition talking about how misinformation has spread through OTT platforms is totally flawed, because in fact, even in this lockdown, as we saw, many filmmakers and producers and news channels and everyone resorted to OTT platforms and the internet for information, for courses, for knowing more stuff. And as we already know, that many films in this lockdown period are actually coming up on these platforms, and we are watching them by paying not even like paying much less, and much and watching much more than we would watch in a cinema hall or on the TV. Is my time up? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm really sorry. Yeah, your time is up. Time is up.
Yeah, that's why sorry you saying
That's
something.
fine,
Okay,
fine.
thank you.
I got muted by mistake. That's fine. Okay. Anyways, points have been noted. Would the opponent team would like to raise a point of order or a point of personal privilege? Okay, fine. With that, we come to the end of the debate. Thank you so much, participants. It was a very interesting debate to say, for one. I'm pretty sure the judge has a lot of feedback and comments to give on the debate. And over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you, Rishabh. Uh, First foremost, in any debate, what we are actually looking for, the chair or the executive board, what we are looking for are engagements, right? And I personally believe there was a little bit lack of engagement from one of the sides. I won't like to mention what side it was. So there was a lack of engagement in pointing out point of orders or accepting it, or countering it in such a way which could have been even better to assess or analyze further. But altogether, it was quite a difficult topic to work upon, because these are, especially when we are living in such a time when OTT platforms have taken the mainstream and replaced the theaters right now. So this is quite a debate, and I personally feel that this debate should have taken place. And the proposition opposition, they were quite good with their initial remarks and the constructs. So that would be it. I enjoyed the conversations. I enjoyed the rebuttals as well. So that would be it on my side, Rishabh. And you folks did amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Participants, we come to the conclusion of the debate then. I'm pretty sure you guys had a great experience regarding the same. We'll notify who gets to the next round by today evening. But until then, I hope you guys had a great experience. Thank you so much for participating.
Can sorry to interrupt you. Can
Yeah.
sir give us basic feedback, like just personal, like not very personal, like just generic feedback on how we could have improved our arguments, or what was lacking in our argument?
Uh, in terms of when I mentioned about the initial stage, the initial arguments that you guys were making during the constructs, I don't think that there was anything which was required more, because I was pretty satisfied with the amount of study and the research that went through your speeches. So I was pretty impressed by that. And in terms of improvement, I would just say that we need to learn about more about the what the opposition feels and what, not just our take. So we need to be aware of what the counter narrative might build up, what the rhetoric that they might create. We need to be aware of that beforehand they even raise any question or point of order, or sorry, point of information. So I think more study should go on the counter narrative as well. And but in this particular debate, I did not feel anything as such was required. So I was pretty satisfied with the amount of research that went on both the sides, in the opposition and the proposition. So that was pretty satisfying on my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Can you also give feedback for the opposition team, please?
Same goes with the opposition team as well. When I told about the amount of research and study that went through in your constructs as well, in the member of opposition and the leader of opposition speeches, I clearly observed it was satisfying. It was pretty good, but I believe there were points where you could have countered the narrative which was being against the opposition, against the preposition. I mean the government. So some points should have been countered. Some points of information should have been raised, but nevertheless, it was quite an interesting time we had. I personally had, and I enjoyed interacting with the young folks here.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, opposition team.
Thank you,
Okay.
opposition. Good debate. All
Okay,
well.
great work, guys. Yeah, you can leave the meeting. Thank you so much. We'll keep you
Thank
updated
you.
regarding your
Have a good day,
results.
everyone.
Have a great day. Stay safe and take care.